Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Monique Matta, and I'm a librarian at the San Luis Obispo City County Library. And on behalf of County of SLO Public Libraries, I wanted to welcome you to this very special virtual program, the Museum of Bad Art, an introduction to MOBA 101. The Museum of Bad Art is an organization in Needham, Massachusetts, that celebrates examples of art where something may have gone wrong. They're the only and the leading institution of their kind in the nation, and I think you'll enjoy this program. It does cut off for a couple minutes at the beginning, so you'll be joining already in progress, but it is just the introductory comments. So you will be able to view the majority of the program, including all of the special artistic content that we have for you. And I also wanted to thank the Friends of the SLO Library for helping make this possible. So enjoy the program.
Jerry Riley and Mari. He stopped at his friend Jerry Riley and Mari Jackson's house, and they wouldn't let him throw it out. They said, "This is so bad, it's good." And they hung it over their fireplace. This inspired Scott and other friends to bring them paintings from yard sales and thrift stores or from the back of their aunt's closet or things like that. So the collection grew. They hung the art around their house, and each piece was accompanied by a commentary that hung with it. Jerry's my brother, so I was involved from the start. Once this collection got a certain size, they decided to invite friends to a party. It was going to be a one-time event called the opening of the Museum of Bad Art. This was on a Saturday night. The next morning, we knew we had to keep this thing going because he had invited about 50 people to the party, but by midnight, there were 200 people in his little tiny house because people kept calling their friends saying, "You've got to come and see this."
It's about 45 minutes. Yeah.
There's somebody who's not muted. I'm hearing talking in the back here.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the painting that Scott found, the thing that started it all, MOBA catalog number 00001. Lucy in the field with flowers. The motion, the chair, the sway of her breast, the subtle hues of the sky, the expression on her face. Every detail cries out masterpiece. Boston newspapers and TV got interested in what we were doing and gave us a lot of coverage. That led to national and then worldwide publicity. Visitors started showing up at Jerry and Mari's little house outside Boston. This was actually the small house they lived in. And for a year or more, the museum was in the basement of this house. At that time, we were already ahead of the curve, and we organized what are now called pop-ups. We had exhibits in a bowling alley that was called Art in the Alley. We had an exhibit at a campground. That's this one. That was Art Goes Out the Window. We had an exhibit in a car wash. Of course, there were no watercolors in that exhibit. But it was becoming clear that MOBA was too much for this little house when tourist buses turned up on the street with loads of senior citizens from Rhode Island coming to see the museum. We were offered space in the basement of a vintage movie theater, the Dedham Community Theater, just south of Boston. This space was infamous because our gallery was adjacent to and allowed visitors to enjoy the sounds and smells of the men's room. We stayed there for about 7 happy years. And meanwhile, around 2000, Scott, Jerry, and Mari moved on to other things. I had been on the team since the start and became the permanent acting interim executive director. We needed a new curator, and after a worldwide search, we found Michael Frank, who had been a volunteer with MOBA for years. One of his outstanding accomplishments was that he led a marching kazoo band through a mall for an event we had. And Mike's now in his 21st year with us. Later, a few years after 2000, we acquired a second gallery space in the basement of another vintage movie theater, this one built in 1914, the Somerville Theater. But ahead of the curve again, late in 2019, we closed our gallery. Within months, museums around the world followed our lead. In MOBA's 28 years, in addition to our Boston area exhibits, we've sent traveling exhibits around the US and as far away as Taiwan, Ottawa, and Tokyo. These days, technology allows us to share with audiences anywhere, as we're doing today with you. But we're pleased that in-person exhibitions are returning. Last summer, MOBA participated in an annual arts festival in Quebec City, Passage Insolite, from June to October. 109 pieces of our art were featured in this lovely 3-story exhibition building. And this year, Passage Insolite invited us back, and we're going to be in an antique museum building. So we'll be in Quebec from June to October. This is the grandest venue we have ever had. The curator-in-chief continually scours thrift stores, yard sales, and interesting piles of trash looking for the next piece. He accepts donations from all over the world, and often from the artist who created the work. To be accepted to our museum, a painting must be, or any work, can be sculpture too, needs to be a sincere attempt to make an artistic statement. Sometimes poor technique results in a compelling image, but more interesting are pieces that show technical skill, but questionable decision-making. After accepting a piece, but before sharing it with the public, Mike interpretates it to help visitors understand what they're looking at. The interpretation, along with information about the provenance, always accompanies our pieces, whether they're shown online or in person. We regularly post pieces to our Facebook page and Instagram. We add works to our website. Some viewers just scroll through the images. But I urge you to also read the interpretations. It will enhance your visit and help you appreciate the art. We have in our collection over 800 pieces, and it's divided into smaller galleries, some of which we will look into today. But there are a couple of basic questions we get. The first one is, what is bad art? Bad art is difficult to define, but we believe that, like pornography, we know it when we see it. And I don't want you to think that we collect pornography or are experts on pornography. We are not. I'm also going to show you some sorts of things we don't collect, because people sometimes have ideas about what they expect to see in this museum, and they're disappointed. It is a notorious subcategory of art. Thousands of paintings like this are made in Mexico and sold around the world. They are fun. There are people who collect them, but we consider them kitsch rather than art. They're not original. They're not really sincere art. But this classic kitsch was exhibited in our gallery as part of our ongoing educational efforts. It was, as you see here, marked as not bad art. It was stolen right from the gallery wall, and we were very unhappy to lose it. But a generous fan donated a different Velvet Crying Elvis. And we consider this one kitsch too, rather than art, but we like to have it so that we can make the contrast. Something we do have in our collection Pablo Presley is a refreshing multicultural treatment of one of the most beloved icons of the 20th century. And we also have Elvis descending a staircase is done on velvet, but it's an original by an artist here in Boston who donated it to us. Employing materials often associated with kitsch, the artist presents a variation on a theme by Marcel Duchamp, reflecting the steady decline of an American legend. Last summer, this painting brought us some unexpected attention.
That's right. Art and artist for 800, please. Ferret in a brothel and Elvis descending a staircase are two of the terrible paintings in MOBA, the Museum of This. Sandy.
What is bad art?
Good.
Yes, we were on Jeopardy! We did not appreciate them using the word terrible to describe MOBA works, but we did enjoy the attention we got from this. We never say anything negative about our art or our artists. Our mission is to collect, exhibit, and celebrate works that would find a home in no other venue. Some other things that we don't collect include paint by numbers. Again, it's fun. There are people that collect it. It's not for us. We're not interested in commercial art, these pieces that are sold at hotel sales when you're looking for something to match the sofa. Next is a piece from the famous Thomas Kinkade. We call it schlock impressionism. Kinkade made a fortune, and his estate continues to sell his romantic landscape paintings. And the promotion for this piece says the textured pieces give the viewer the impression that they are viewing an original painting with all its detailed brushwork and ornate beauty. We don't collect tourist art. You know, those pieces that are sold on sidewalks in busy tourist areas. But then there is this, a celebration of the beautiful women and cigars of Cuba. Mike, our curator, acquired this on his first visit to Havana, and you can see it says he purchased it at a souvenir market in Havana. He says that the work is so compelling, he can break his rule against tourist art. The curator makes the rules, the curator can break the rules. We're often offered interesting items like kitschy home decor or completed craft kits. They're not for us. We also do not own any important art. Now, this art is all of our art is important to us, but in the art world, our works are not considered important. This next piece is important art in italics. Cat and Bird is a whimsical expressionist painting by Paul Klee. It was a conscious attempt to create art reflecting childlike innocence. Art historians infer that the cat is thinking about the bird in his head. Klee's paintings sell at auction for $5 million or so. We don't have that kind of money. But we do have Sphinx Knot. We have no idea what this cat is thinking about. The ancient Egyptian Sphinx denotes wisdom and power with its human head and lion's body. In our painting, we see the opposite, as the not-so-noble feline with the skinny man's body rests his face in his hands in a classic pose indicating despair and confusion. You probably recognize the next important art. Johannes Vermeer's Milkmaid is famous and beloved. Vermeer was a Dutch Baroque period painter who specialized in domestic interior scenes. In 2004, one of his paintings sold at auction for $40 million, also beyond our budget. But we have our own Milkmaid. Apparently fond of Vermeer's Milkmaid, the artist chose to brighten her austere work environment with a lovely bouquet of flowers, and he aged her 30 or 40 years. Auguste Renoir made this trio of paintings in 1883. Dansette Beaujeval is at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. I grew up less than a mile from there and often saw this in person, and a print of it was in our home. I've also seen the other two at Musée d'Orsay in Paris. We, the MOBA, we have none of these pieces, but what we do have the artist celebrates the joy of social dancing in this delightful depiction of a Mexican couple. Sticking with the theme of dance for a minute, we see a stylishly handsome couple mid-step as they glide across the floor, cheek to cheek. I mentioned that we've divided our collection into galleries, and in other curator talks, we dive deeper into some of the galleries, but today we're going to pop in and out of a few. Blue Tango is part of the MOBA Zoo. So let's take a look at more MOBA Zoo pictures.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno.
But here we go. It's interesting to ponder the fate of the owner of the rucksack next to a Bengal tiger standing in shallow water. It's probably safe to conclude that the owner has abandoned the pack and is the object of Bruno's hungry, vaguely man-faced gaze. Knowing his species does not swim, a lone giraffe stays very close to the beach as he walks gingerly in a rough sea. Perhaps he has strayed so far from his normal grassy savanna habitat in a desperate search for relief from the noxious yellow cloud that hovers incessantly around his head. A centaur and a motorcyclist race on a beach to determine how much progress has been made since the Greek god's reign. The artist made the interesting decision to depict 1.5 cows in a pastoral plein air painting while avoiding the inconvenience of actually going outside. Two or more artists contributed to this work, in which we are reminded, when walking in the desert at night, to remain focused. Iridescent moon jellyfish swim around classic ruins under a colorful constellation of stars and planets. The floor is littered with 7 death masks. One of them wears a necklace right here, featuring what may be the key to understanding this bewildering tableau. A scholarly fan of the museum observed that entasis is well captured in the ruins depicted here. We do not know what entasis is, so we did a little research. Entasis is almost universal in classic architecture. It's the convex curve given to a column, right in this area, in an attempt to correct the optical illusion of hollowness or weakness that would arise from normal tapering. Modern examples of entasis include the classic Coke bottle, not Pepsi, bowling pins, and Mrs. Robinson's leg in The Graduate.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Moon jellies at night is in the zoo gallery because it's our only moon jellyfish picture, but it could fit into another gallery. Unlikely landscapes and still lifes also includes pieces with over-the-top imagery, such as Easter Island. A panoramic view of the seldom visited women's section of Easter Island, a tiny, isolated Polynesian island famous for its ancient stone figures, known as Moai. Time and gravity have clearly taken their toll on this ancient statue. The wild westerly wind that devastated this peaceful bucolic landscape was strong enough to denude mature trees, grossly distort fair weather clouds, rend the fur from a cow, and bend a wrought iron weather vane. It also induced panic in a basset hound whose ears and tongue point due east. This piece, you might notice, was donated by the artist, by Bob Roots. And we recently learned that he died this year. In his published obituary, they mentioned that he had a piece in the Museum of Bad Art. So it was something that he was proud of and enjoyed. I always have to read the title of this because it tickles me. disassembled light bulb, X-Acto knife, industrial waste, egg, and Pez dispenser. The artist offers a series of images of industrial urban blight in the distance, as well as destruction in the foreground. Most disturbing is the imminent decapitation of the cheery Pez dispenser horse. The industrial building is the Battersea Power Station, now closed. It once supplied about 20% of London's electricity and apparently a higher percent of the city's air pollution. The painting is clearly inspired by the photograph on the cover of Pink Floyd's 1977 album, Animals.
And any fool knows a dog needs a home. A shelter from pigs on the wing.
Sure, pigs on the wing. That explains everything. Well, still unexplained is the significance of the Beijing, China was rocked by unprecedented political protests as well as violent government response in May and June of 1989. On June 5th, as a column of tanks rumbled by Tiananmen Square, an unidentified man strode into the center of Tiangan Avenue. Armed only with shopping bags, he defiantly stood in front of the tanks, forcing them to stop. Associated Press photographer Jeff Widner took this photo of the incident. His film was smuggled out of China and the image published around the world. The anonymous tank man of Tiananmen Square instantly became a hero of the protest. The iconic photo was obviously the inspiration for this painting. Our anonymous artist added color and, more importantly, changed the perspective to emphasize the relative power of the man over the toy-like military machines. His mariachi costume may indicate the universality of the struggle against oppression worldwide. Snow-capped peaks tower over this summer meadow, featuring evergreens, wildflowers, and a waterfall of mysterious origin. MOBA curators speculate that this peak in the distance is, well, let's take another look. It's Gorilla Mountain. Free from constraint and apparently the force of gravity, pink carnations stand independently tall, proud, and in full bloom. The image of the classic 1980s toys emanating from a jester gargoyle's mouth can only be described as puzzling. It's an example of what we call Rubik's Cubism. While there are many images of animals, landscape, and still lifes, most of our paintings portray people. We call them portraits. An attractive couple enjoys a private moment at the water's edge. The artist seems to be sharing his vision of a dystopian future in which fashion-conscious hipsters, living with rising sea levels and widespread pollution, wear his and her hazmat suits. Lost puppy, no one to play with, nothing on TV. What sad fate has befallen this young beauty with the big red bow? Her life is so empty she must conjure an imaginary shelf on which to lean. Sad Baby has become a favorite, a MOBA favorite. We've had it for many years. And you can imagine our excitement when Sad Baby appeared in person at the opening of our event in Taiwan a few years ago. Rosalie Gale rescued this painting from a dumpster in Seattle. It's enormous. It's 3 feet by 4 feet, and it's heavy. Rosalie said, "It was huge and scary. He has metal wire hair and fingernails and staple eyebrows. I decided that since the guy looked so worried, I'd write down all the stuff I worry about and stick them to his wire hair. Then I'd just let him worry about them. Among the worries she let him assume were large bodies of water, having too much stuff, money, and spiders. When this piece has been exhibited in our gallery, visitors often add their worries to his hair, and every now and then we have to go through and cull out some of it so we can continue to see that wonderful wire hair. But Worried Man has helped us deal with some of the worries of the last few years. An unusually large, well-manicured hand emerges from the foreground flowers in a tender caress in this touching portrayal of sibling love between beautifully coiffed, conjoined twins. Given the inordinate amount of time they spend together, it is auspicious that they get along so well, always seeing eye to eye. Mona Lisa is a cross-gendered interpretation of the Da Vinci classic. Taking their cue from Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code, MOBA curators decided to use anagrams of the title to better understand this mystifying work. I am nasal, a sailman, as animal, am a snail, male NASA, and, of course, man alias. Since there are so many paintings of people, we found it useful to create some more specialized galleries, such as doppelhangers. These are paintings that by accident or by design resemble famous people.
There was a girl, there was a boy.
Teenagers at the height of their fame, Donnie and Marie wear matching clothes, hair, and smiles. A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. The Osmonds were a talented show business family, Ogden, Utah's answer to the Jackson family from Gary, Indiana. Donnie and Marie emerged as the family stars, like Michael and Janet Jackson. This photo is from their TV variety show in the 1970s. A fan painted this in homage. The artist expressed her appreciation. One need not sit on a dark night looking heavenward for the brightest stars. He has but to be in a darkened hall, watching the greatest of the greats, the Osmonds. White-knuckled Bill Clinton is portrayed furtively glancing away from the viewer. The artist's rendition of the president's tie offers a clue to this choice. Sorry, one too many music clip in there. The tie offers a clue to the source of his tension. We believe that as patriotic Americans, we should play that clip every time we come up against a presidential portrait. This is a formal yet relaxed portrait of two first families. So relaxed it appears President Bush slept in his suit. The crack curatorial department did some research and found this photo taken at the opening of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in 1991. The Carters, Fords, and Nixons do not appear in our painting. We're hopeful there is a companion piece. The donors have agreed to scour thrift stores in Virginia and Washington now that they've reopened.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play.
In spite of her unfortunate haircut, which was fashionable at the time, Liza Minnelli's remarkable stage presence at the peak of her career is evident. The artist believed her inexperience with paint and brush caused her to miss the mark, so she stored her painting in a damp garage for 27 years. What appears to be chest hair on the pop icon is actually mold. Every major museum has a substantial number of life studies, and we are no exception. It's not obvious, though, that all of our artists have actually seen a naked person. For instance, the cares of the day slip away, and the first flush of sleep brings color to Pauline's innocent cheek. MOBA curators believe this anonymous painter may have never seen a naked woman, but was clearly inspired by the work of Amedeo Modigliani, an important Italian painter and sculptor who lived in Paris in the early 20th century. The artist may also have been influenced by another album cover, a solo classical guitar record by Steve Hackett of Genesis, released in 1986. The painting was done by his wife, Kim Poor. Amazons at Play is a surreal image of giant women on a bucolic outing. 3 young women play with flying machines and relieve themselves, while the only male in the scene, he's right over here, is splayed open as a humiliated vessel. The artist took liberties with perspective, but paid meticulous attention to the anatomic details such as the central figure's underboob shadows and thigh gap. Curators believe this image was inspired by the controversial 1969 album cover of the English supergroup Blind Faith, featuring Bob Seidman's photo of a young girl holding a toy airplane. Looking somewhat uncomfortable, the lithe subject is confined to the shape of the canvas in this revealing portrait. Notice that this was acquired at a thrift store in Boston in 2008. At the same thrift store, over 12 years later, our curator purchased this. Looking somewhat uncomfortable, the lithe subject is confined to the shape of the canvas in this revealing portrait. Looking totally relaxed as she strikes a classic pose, a woman with neatly trimmed hair wears only high-heel slides that accentuate her slender ankles. Her nudity distracts most viewers from noting her unusual right hand, in which she uses to gracefully hold a cup of steaming java. Did you count her fingers? Here's another piece we could not afford. This is an early 19th century woodblock print on silk. There are many Japanese erotic prints that we cannot afford, but we do have the sneeze. A violent sneeze results in a wardrobe malfunction for a beautiful Asian woman. Loosely translated, the inscription reads, "Is that a katana in your kimono, or are you just happy to see me?" Well, they are outnumbered by the ladies. We do, of course, have a few naked guys. Can the swirling steam melt away the huge weight of George's corporate responsibility? This is a fine example of labor-intensive pointlessism. The piece is curious for meticulous attention to fine detail, in contrast to the almost disregard for the subject's feet. The painting was listed as the work of an anonymous artist for many years and was even described in a MOBA book as such. Fortunately, Mr. Gudritis came forward to claim the work and bask in the attention brought to him through MOBA. Next is an intriguing life study. This red-haired man wears nothing but a pinky ring. We're left to speculate about the cause of the massive hematoma on his left buttock. Museums around the world are full of artwork created to uplift the mind to the spiritual dimension, and MOBA's no exception there. The organ master stares, transfixed by twin mysterious visions. The Neanderthal saint in the setting sun, and the Gothic monk proceeding out from the cathedral sanctum, each framed by a halo of organ pipes reminiscent of No. 2 pencils. Fetchingly attractive St. Martha is depicted in recognition of the fact that in the spiritual as well as the physical realm, a woman's work is never done. Like most major museums, we have many versions of this traditional motif in our collection. The Holy Mother is particularly beautiful in this rendition. Her baby, not so much. MOBA Sports section is up next. George Bellows painted scenes of daily life in New York City's poorer neighborhoods. This depicts a particularly violent 1924 boxing match between heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey and his Argentinian challenger Luis Angel Firpo, the Wild Bull. The fight lasted only 4 minutes, but there were 11 knockdowns. Here, Dempsey is knocked through the ropes in the first round. He was pushed back into the ring by the sports writers at ringside, and he came back to win the fight in the second round. This painting has been in the Whitney Museum in New York City since it opened in 1930. An original lithograph signed by George Bellows, Jack Dempsey, and Luis Firpo sold for $61,000 recently. We have neither the oil painting nor the lithograph, but we have this interesting original. The artist uses faux high-tech medical imagery, what appears to be a death mask, and a violent image of pugilists in action to illustrate the inherent danger confronting all the faceless athletes who engage in the sweet science. A baseball season is well underway, and I am a huge Red Sox fan. We do have, Red Sox are doing a little better, not as terrible as they were at the beginning of the season. We do have a few baseball paintings to enjoy. Number 10 looks comfortable in the batter's box. It appears that in his haste to begin the season, he stepped up to the plate wearing his comfy slippers. Asymmetrical limbs and a flexible bat help this all-star develop tremendous torque at the plate. The spectators silently gaze, transfixed. From the look on his face, we might assume that the mighty Casey has, in fact, struck out. The smallest MOBA gallery focuses on the window to the soul, the human eye. The I collection includes paintings like Here's Looking at You. Larger than life and unencumbered by eyelashes, a solitary green eye looms menacingly silent. While it's commonly recognized that eyes are portals to the soul, gazing into this one is disturbingly like staring down the barrel of a gun. The woman tree cries out for help that will never come. Her faceless, morphing, arborescent figure reaches upward for sustenance, while a torrent of tearful eyes rains down, threatening to bury her in her own psychosexual drift. Stylized facial features float before a colorful background. The orange slice eyes and blue lips are totally segregated, never invading each other's space as they inhabit separate but equal real estate on the canvas. The artist clarified the yellow dots next to every set of lips. She said, "I always wanted to have beauty marks like Miss Peggy Lee." Peggy Lee was the sultry singer-actress who famously sang of feverish affairs of the heart.
Never know how much I love you. Never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever.
I, at the last minute, added another piece to this collection. That would have been almost at the end of my program, but we acquired a very exciting piece about a week ago, and everything about it demands that it ends up in our museum. I haven't talked today much about provenance, but we are interested in the history of the art in our collection. This next piece that I'm going to show you in 1970 was given to a Dr. Dan Heller by the artist who created it, who was his patient. The Heller and Weiner families gave it back and forth to one another since 1970 until this year, 50 years later, when Neil Weiner decided it was time to find it a permanent home. He contacted us about 2 weeks ago offering the piece, and the curator's immediate response was yes. Now about the inspiration for this piece. Some of you have probably seen Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel in person, and most will at least have seen images of this mural behind the altar, the big fresco behind the altar in the Sistine Chapel. This is the Last Judgment. It's immense. It's about 70 feet wide and 40 feet high, and there are hundreds of figures in it. We see Jesus in the center deciding who is just and can go head on up to heaven and who is a sinner condemned to hell. We're interested in a small group of sinners over here. This section tells us that most of the damned are men, or maybe we're seeing evidence of Michelangelo's preference for men. I think by the time he got here, he just wanted to fill up the wall and finish this thing. But notice the figure on the left, who has come to be called the damned man by art critics. He's being dragged down by sinister demons. But in 1970, our artist, Clarence Leroy Hines, created his improved version of the damned man. We call him the damned guy. The artist sought to improve upon Michelangelo's masterpiece by clothing him in a green Speedo and adding a disembodied eyeball over his right shoulder, spewing what appears to be toxic slime. Now we can exit through the gift shop. If you've enjoyed MOBA, you can get MOBA t-shirts, mugs, calendars, books from our gift shop. Go to the MOBA website, museumofbadart.org, and click on the word shop in the upper section. And you can get prints of almost anything in the collection. If you don't see the one you want, send us a note and we can probably get it for you. Right now, we're excited about having Museum of Bad Art Masterworks book back in print. It was out of print and we've recently arranged a reprint. It's a 6x9 paperback and it's easy to order. It's not too late to get the 2022 MOBA calendar if you would really like to just cover your walls with pictures from the MOBA Zoo collection, but 2023 calendar just got delivered and will be shown in our gift shop soon. And if you really want to fill your walls with MOBA art, you can still order calendars from the last few years. Things keep changing, but many people still have situations where they want to or need to wear masks. You can order a MOBA mask, not through the gift shop, but by a direct note to MOBA at museumofbadart.org, and we'll tell you how to do it. These three have been our most popular, but we can arrange to have a mask made of most of the paintings. If you don't need t-shirts, calendars, or masks, but still want to support MOBA, you can donate money. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We don't charge admission to our galleries. There are no staff salaries, and we operate on a shoestring supported by donations and sales of MOBA gifts. Just visit museumofbadart.org/donate. But maybe you have a piece of art you want to donate. Just send us a photo. Send it to curator at museumofbadart.org. And if you know some things about the art, the artist, its history, tell us what you can. If he thinks it belongs in MOBA, he'll tell you how to get it to us. And if you'd like to just keep up with what we're doing, there are a few ways to follow us. You can follow us on Facebook, where you can join in the conversation and tell us what you think of the works that we add regularly. You can subscribe to MOBA News. Just put your email address in the chat today, or send a note to moba@museumofbadart.org with your email address. And our MOBA News goes out 4 or 5 times a year. We never share our email list. On our website, museumofbadart.org, you can see the art organized into galleries like we talked about today. And on YouTube, there are recorded versions of several curator talks, as well as a whole about 20 very short pieces. Each little piece, maybe 2 to 3 minute piece, is about one piece of art in the collection. Today, we brought you MOBA 101. We have 4 other programs, so maybe we can come back one day with a visit to the MOBA Zoo, or In the Nude, or Living in Tough Times. Given all the problems we face these days, this program examines works that reflect people dealing with difficult circumstances. And of course, we have a program on doppelhangers, those images that by accident or design resemble famous people. Here is one more piece of MOBA art. And I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's anyone there.
Louise, can you hear me by any chance?
I can.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
Hilarious. I appreciate it. We had a little bit of audio technical difficulties to start with, so I apologize about that.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And do you have some people there in the library with you?
Yes,
Oh,
we
great.
do. So does anybody have any questions? You can just put them in the chat, or
with so few people, we can just even let them just speak up and tell us.
yeah, just if anybody wants to ask a question, you can. And we're actually, if someone was asking if they can see some of this art online, can they go on your website and view this?
Absolutely, on our website and on Facebook, both places.
And we're actually having another session. I was going to bring that up. We're going to have a visit to the MOBA Zoo next Saturday, the 24th, at the same time, 10:30.
Right.
So, yeah, and you can attend that here or online. Yeah,
Great.
Thank you so much. So oh, she's in Boston. Yeah, well, outside of Boston, Needham, Massachusetts.
Yeah, just west of Boston, right? Yes, we started at 1:30 here, so
Gotcha.
right. Well, one question that does come up that I didn't really cover here is, how do artists respond when they find out that their work is in the Museum of Bad Art? And almost always they're delighted. An artist creates something because they want to share it or they want to communicate something. And we are sharing the work, we're finding an audience, we're celebrating these works. Once in a while, over the I keep forgetting to do the math, almost 30 years that we've been doing this, I think 3 times there was an artist who did not want their work in the museum, in which case we offer to either return it to them or destroy it for them, because we do not want to hurt anyone's feelings. We love these people. We love what they create. And
Do you offer tours? Are you open currently?
oh, that's actually a huge question. We did, the 2 galleries that we had were closed for very different reasons. They had given us free space for years and could no longer do it. And we've been homeless for a couple of years now, but we are right now preparing to move into a brewery in Boston, a craft brewery that's giving us their wall space in a couple of function rooms. And it will again be free space. It'll be open long, from probably 11 till midnight most days. And it's on public transportation in Boston. So anyone coming to Boston can get there without having to drive out to the suburbs or anything. So we're very excited about that. It will probably have about 40 pieces in it, and we will change probably twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, we'll change the exhibit there. But right now, Quebec is the best place to visit us for free. They're the exhibit that's opening next week in Quebec will be there all summer in a beautiful antique museum building that had been not used for years, and they renovated it, and we're the first people to in modern times to exhibit there.
Are you sure anyone doesn't have any questions?
No questions?
Yeah, I thought for sure there'd be a couple.
Well, all right.
Put in the chat, or you can raise your hand.
And if there is anything anyone wants to communicate to us, MOBA@museumofbadart.org. We'll get to me and to the curator, and we'll be happy to answer questions or anything like that.
Okay, let me see if I can post a link really quick. I'm gonna try to let's see. I'm gonna try to post a link to, you can just visit slowlibrary.org if you want to register for the session next Saturday.
Oh,
Attend
great
it.
idea.
So yeah, if you guys. Oh, we had a question about the picture behind you, Louise.
Oh, yes. If you hang on just a second, I will get the write-up on that so I can give it to you properly. Just give me.
That looks very familiar. It's inspired by another work, maybe?
If it is, we haven't unearthed it yet, what it's inspired by. But I would be delighted to know that. A lot of the things that you saw that we said today, somebody told us, we didn't always find these connections on our own. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong document here. Let's see. Okay. Okay, this is, whoops, I had it and then it left. This painting, I'll try to get out of the way, I'll get out of the way this way, is Aurora Borealis. Blinded by the northern lights, the beautiful maiden wanders the coast nightly, hoping for a glimpse of her lover's ship, which she fears is lost at sea. She doesn't realize he joined the Navy because he prefers the company of his fellow sailors. The white dress, white waves, and white lights give this piece a lightness that conveys eternal hope, no matter what. So that is Aurora Borealis.
It looks like someone in the chat is saying that it reminds them of an Edvard Munch painting that they can't remember the name of.
It does have that sense of despair that you sometimes see with Munch. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Louise. It looks like that's it for our questions. And thank you so much, though, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you all. And the next week it will be Mike, the curator, will be doing the MOBA Zoo, so you'll get to meet both of the principals who keep this thing going.
Excellent.
And thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming. And again, go to slowlibrary.org next Saturday at 10:30. We're going to have a visit to the MOBA Zoo. So have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.